Well, hey, dads, and welcome again to another edition of the Dad Nation podcast. My name is Jason Braun, co-host of this podcast, and along with my partner in crime, Matt Crittenden, here this month. How are you, my friend?
I am well. It's good to be back.
It is good for you to be back.
Yes,
It's
excited.
been a couple of months since you've been with me here in the studio, so it's good to be back. Just welcome to any first-time listeners. Welcome to our regular listeners of the Dad Nation podcast. This is an extension of a ministry called Dad Camp. You can find more about Dad Camp at dadcamp.org. We are on mission to build stronger fathers who build stronger children. We have a dream to see a world where every family has a great dad. We just believe when dads win, families win, and that comes from our from our faith. That comes from a position of just from the social aspects of life and culture, that just when dads win, families win. And so this is just a monthly episode to encourage dads, all dads, not just guys that attend Dad Camp, but any father around the globe that's listening. We just hope this is an encouragement to you. And so this month, the last several months, we've actually had the privilege and the blessing of having some guests, Matt, on the podcast. And this month again, we got someone from across the waters, from across the pond, as we would say. So we are privileged to have one of our international directors for Dad Camp. I think this is maybe the first time we've ever had one of our international Dad Camp
in studio
directors.
Wow. Yes.
So this is Mr. Pali from Portugal.
Hey, Jason. How
Dad
you doing?
Camp director. So welcome, my friend.
Matt? Doing good?
I'm well. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
We're honored to have you.
Yeah,
So
it's a privilege to be here.
We are excited to just we just think that allowing you this month to hear a little bit of Pali's story is going to encourage you as a dad, and that's what this is all about. So we're gonna dive into his story here just in a few minutes, but we always have, for the most part, especially when Matt and I are here together, we do have this little tradition, Pali, of having a question of the day, just to have a little fun, get to know each other a little bit better, break the ice a little bit. But my good friend Emily Knabel, who's our social media director, threw this one at me recently, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to throw this one at you guys. And so the question of the day is kind of the first character, whether it's a movie, cartoon, when you were as a kid, that kind of made you just feel a little uncomfortable, a little kind of freaked you out, made you feel a little on edge. Anything from that, does that take you anywhere?
Go ahead, Matt.
Me first?
Yeah.
So there's a character named Reverend Henry Kane. The Reverend Henry Kane.
All right.
This is from Poltergeist.
Oh, boy.
And so 1982, I'd have been 9-10 years old.
Were you born, Pali?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, you're dating me.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you, Matt.
Yep.
Not Pali. We've already checked out.
So this is, just it was. I didn't see the movie, but I saw the trailer for the movie.
That's all you needed to see,
advertising
apparently.
it. And this guy was pretty prominent in the trailer. And if any of you guys dare, just you can look on YouTube or Google it now, an image of Reverend Henry Kane. But the dude was terrifying to me. And the scene that they showed in the trailer, just he was kind of like this just intimidating figure. You gotta go look to see what I'm talking about. But my mom was always terrified of horror movies, and this really spoke to me as a young kid. She got up and walked backwards to the television and turned the channel like this, like with her hand behind her back. And I was thinking, oh, there must, like, this terrifying figure, there must be something to be scared about here.
Yeah.
So
we're even talking pre-remote control now.
Yeah.
Like,
This
we're
is
going
like
to the
you had
dial.
to go up
We're
and
going to
like
the dial on the TV.
Yeah, you guys don't know nothing about having to get up and go to the
Yeah.
TV to change the channel. So Reverend Henry Kane, look it up.
So
if you
even
dare.
that, this is the proof of the power of just a trailer. You didn't even see the movie.
No. Later on in
course,
life,
the
when
trailer-
I had
the
a little
trailer
bit more
freaked out.
bravery, which was probably a good 8 or 9 years ago. I saw the movie, and he still was scary to me.
All right, Mr. Post 1982.
So, does it have to be the first one, or
No.
can I tell a
Yeah,
cool
just-
story about it?
Whatever.
Yeah.
We watched a
Everything goes
movie
here.
with a group of friends when we were teenagers called The Ring, right?
Uh-huh.
And it's a very scary movie.
terrifying.
It's terrifying, and there's a phone involved that rings as well, and there's a ring, and there's different things going on in the movie. And we were all scared, freaking out. It was very late at night, and as soon as the movie is over, all the words and the castings they're showing up. We turn off the TV, and the moment we turn off the TV, the phone rings.
Yeah, everybody jumped. I
And
bet.
everybody jumped. So that's kind of like a cool memory of a horror movie
Yeah.
with friends.
So that I didn't know that was coming. I didn't know that answer was coming. And now you just took me to a memory that wasn't there until
All right.
you just brought it. So I'm going to predate you, 1982. And I think this is probably from 1980-ish or whatever. But there was a movie called When a Stranger Calls.
Okay.
They actually made a newer version, I think in the 2000s at some
Okay.
point. So this is like an unseen character. This is this. There's just a babysitter. She's at home, like just at where she's babysitting the kids, and the phone keeps ringing, and she'll pick it up, and the stranger that's calling, when a stranger calls, says, "Check the children, 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 children. Check the children, children."
Oh, wow.
And I was watching this at a friend's house, and the same thing happened. Like, we're like sitting there watching, the phone's ringing on this movie, and we're freaking out. We're like 8 years old, watching the television version. You know, we're
Right.
not even like, you know, because we weren't allowed to rent whatever the rated R version was, but this is the television version that was
Right.
on. And then the phone rings, and we like all jump behind the couch, and we're hiding behind the couch.
It's the stranger.
Because he's like, and we're like, don't answer it, don't answer it. But that totally brought me back to that. But
Wow.
my answer was going to be, I'm going to go cartoon days when I'm like 5, and I like the Smurfs, guys. I don't know. I was into the Smurfs. And Gargamel, like, kind of freaked me out. Like, you know, he was
Gargamel.
that guy that just didn't like the Smurfs.
Yeah. I could see that when you're
Wanted to
5.
take him down. He just, you
kinda
know,
creepy.
he's kind of that look.
Well,
Okay.
the Smurfs is a very important thing in my family because when we got married, on the cake, there was a groom and bride Smurfs.
Really?
On your wedding cake.
Because I used to call my wife, how do you call the girl Smurf? I don't remember the name. in
Smurfette.
English. Smurfette.
Smurfette.
So I call my wife.
The one.
Yeah, which is kind of
Then
weird.
there's- Yeah, that is kind of
It's
weird.
weird.
Seeing as there's a lot of Smurfs.
It's weird.
Yeah, so but
just
I
leave
used to
that at
call my
that.
wife Smurfette.
Okay.
Yeah,
And so you had
but in
Smurfs.
French, which is
So-
Schtroumpfette.
So what was the
Smurfette.
boy Smurf that was with the Smurfette on the cake?
Well, it was one dressed up as a groom, so you don't really see his character.
So it was
Okay.
maybe his name was Groom. I
I
don't
knew
know.
there was a lot of competition there for
Yeah.
whoever
There
was
was.
gonna marry Smurfette.
I got it. I won the competition.
right,
I
that's
got to
right.
marry
Paulie is
Smurfette.
claiming it. Here we are. He's the winner.
Oh, I love the question
man.
of the day.
So-
that was a good one.
I wanted to just tell you guys about how we met Paulie because I love the idea of divine appointments.
Yeah.
And I remember reading, I think it was maybe something out of a Francis Chan book back in the day called Crazy Love, where I think he introduced this idea to me, like of divine appointments. Like every day you wake up, think of every single person that you interact with as someone that God has put in your path to love and to add value to.
Yes.
Like literally every interaction is a divine appointment. And I loved that. It kind of brought a lot more significance, I don't know, to just the what you sometimes think is an insignificant interaction to making it feel more significant. But in this case, there's like, I think a series, of divine appointments going on here that leads to right now. And I think that's so cool. So, Matt, you started attending dad camp. You've shared this, on the podcast before. But was it? What year was it again?
It was 8 years ago. Kyle and I were just talking about that because we just did our 8th
16 or 17, something like that.
Yeah, dad camp together.
And then you invited a best friend of yours by the name of Jeremy Robinson, who's been on the podcast before,
Yes.
to attend dad camp with you, correct?
Correct.
And he did. And now Jeremy is an all-in dad camper. You guys are still best buddies.
Absolutely.
Fast forward some years, Jeremy meets a guy named Derek Underhow, who's married to a lovely Japanese lady. Then they were on mission together as missionaries in Japan, and they had just come back from Japan. And Jeremy just meets this don't go into all these details, but Jeremy meets Derek, invites him to dad camp.
Right.
Derek is like, hey, like I'm going to invite my brother-in-law to dad camp, who's a missionary in Portugal and is here on furlough, and so he's here with his kids, and we'll go to dad camp together. So the day comes or the weekend comes, and then Derek does attend, but his brother-in-law Matt gets COVID, and so he's unable to attend. But Derek has an awesome time, and just tells Matt, hey, like this is awesome, it's legit. You guys should do this in Portugal. And so then Matt calls me, reaches out to me, and says, hey, I know I didn't attend, but I trust my brother-in-law, and I see what you guys are doing, and we don't do anything like this at the camp that I'm a part of in Portugal, so this would be such a great fit for us, or a great add-on. Why don't we just plan it? And so we did. We put a date in the calendar, and we took a team over to Portugal. And who is the Word of Life Portugal camp director? Or, with Matt, it's Pali. And so Pali ends up being kind of like he's becomes a huge part of our team, and we do this first dad camp together with his team. And that just began a relationship and a friendship and a partnership in ministry, which leads to now Paulie coming this way to come just get to know our team here a little bit, see dad camp in Indiana a little bit, and just that journey continues. So I think it's just these series of divine appointments that leads us to where we're at today. And we're just
which is interesting because like the first time you guys came as a team to do dad camp in Portugal, I mean, we were just looking at what was going to happen, thinking it's going to be a blessing for us. It's a one-time thing. Maybe they'll come some other moment. Mm-hmm. I never thought that year that we were going to have this type of partnership that close, where we are actually doing multiple dad camps in Portugal every year now, and growing into other European countries. So it's just a blessing to see. Like at the beginning, it was just a blessing for me, and I'll talk a little bit about it later. But it's just like something that came up as like, oh, let's just do something that ended up us being full on part of it.
Right. Yeah. I think we talked about in 2024 you've done 10 events.
Yeah.
It's like that's not small. He's not
with
saying
his
like
Portugal
we did 2
team,
or 3,
like
right? With us not even going there.
No.
You guys seeing the vision and seeing the value, and then it resulting in you basically taking the ball and running with it yourself. Like that's the power of divine
And for us,
intervention.
Paulie and his team, they do camp. Like that's how they do their ministry.
Right.
Yeah.
And and so we've learned from them as every bit as much as they've learned from us, because it's this perfect kind of marriage between two ministries that they utilize the model, or they utilize camp as a way to reach people. Our model is to focus on fathers. Their model was students and families, and they just never done it with just dad specific before. So it just was one of those add-ons for them that was like, hey, this is just adds to the menu of what we do. But then they do things that we've never done before. That's like, oh man, that's a great addition for dad camp. So it's just it's a really cool thing. Word of Life, if you're not familiar with it, is a great ministry. They're not just in Portugal. Tell us about
over 70 countries around the world, over 1,000 missionaries around the world.
It's huge.
Full-time missionaries.
Like 1,000 missionaries, 70 countries. And they primarily are a camp model.
Well, kind of. Well, the goal of Word of Life is that every student can make a next step with Jesus. So however that shows, maybe the next step is the first step. Right?
Yep.
So through different events and activities, we're a gospel center ministry that we are basically a tool for the local church mainly. So that local church, maybe there's a local church that doesn't do summer camps for their teens. Well, they can bring it to our camps. We also offer ministry, local church ministry training for kids, for teenagers, for them to be able to have leadership development. And then in some more countries, we even have Bible institutes to teach the Bible in different regions. So,
So let's, Paulie, just tell us a little bit of your story that, I guess like this makes perfect segue that led you to where you're at as a Word of Life Portugal missionary. There's a story that precedes that.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, since we're in dad camp, I think generations are a big deal in dad camp.
Yes.
So my great-grandfather with the same last name as I have, so always men in that side, was an anarchist, atheist family member. He was a kid. His father was extremist Catalan from Spain. And it was illegal to send kids to Christian schools. So as a good atheist and anarchist, did whatever it take to be against the government and took one of his kids to a Christian school. And in that Christian school, my great-grandfather, Benito Montleau, he came to Christ and started attending a Brethren church in Barcelona, one that's very well known. And then went to San Francisco to do some furlough because he was sent as a missionary to plant churches in Argentina. My grandfather was one of the leaders of that church that my great-grandfather planted, so kept on that legacy going. And then my father he was studying to be an engineer. He had a great job. My mom was a music teacher, had a great job. And then, and this is important, I think, for Dad Camp podcast. And there was a message used with Ananias and Sapphira in the Bible that God used. It was like, what are you keeping from God? And that's what God used to call on my dad and to becoming a missionary. And he left everything behind. He sold the house. He left everything that he had financially, specifically, and went in to study the Bible in the Bible Institute in Argentina and Word of Life. And then after the first year, he became part-time missionary and part-time student. So he kept studying but teaching first-year students and training leaders because he was really good with the Bible. And so my dad is a missionary. He's been a missionary for over 50 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. For almost 50 years still.
Still wow.
Yeah.
And they're actually a blessing. I mean, I can't really complain about much about how I grew up and my relationship with my parents. With my mom, I have a lot straighter and stronger relationship. Even last night, I spent like an hour talking to her because we have a great relationship. With my dad, he's a little colder, like a man. He's a man. So, and there are, of course, negative things that when we look back, we see. But overall, something that impacted my life with my dad's life was a man of integrity, that he was exactly the same with other people as he was at home. And I think that made a difference. And I see a lot of missionary kids, and I'm a missionary kid, so I talked a lot with missionary kids. And what I would say a very common denominator with spiritual missionary kids, or at least that they do good. I mean, I'm not super spiritual, but that we're kind of in the ways of the Lord, and people that rebel against God in a lot of moments is because their parents are not the same at home as they are on a pulpit or with people. So I do have to thank God that I had that privilege to see firsthand that it is possible to be a good Christian outside your house, but also inside of your house.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like there's this paradigm that Christians are hypocrites.
Yeah.
So you're probably a good preacher, but maybe you beat your wife at home or you drink or you.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful about having that legacy from my dad, that with certain things and that were hard as well, but he always showed that side that was very helpful.
So
for
not
me.
just a do as I say, but a do as I do.
Exactly.
And you could follow that,
Yeah.
and it was a good example to follow.
Yeah, and
that
he's very a strict man with. He liked things done a certain way with his rules, but he was very loving. He built a relationship with us. He taught me how to drive. When I was younger, because I'm very much younger. Like I'm 13 years old. I'm younger than my sister. 9 years younger than my brother. So
You
my
are the
mom
baby.
and my mom wasn't supposed to get pregnant anymore because she had a problem. So my mom calls me a present from God. My dad calls me the accident.
This explains your closeness with your mom.
Yes.
Right? This makes sense now.
Well, but we have a counseling room right outside the podcast.
Yeah, it's all right. No hard feelings. My dad is a jokester.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
yeah. So My dad loves to laugh. He's a jokester, so yeah, great relationship there.
So let's fast forward now to how you met your wife, and tell us a little about your family now that led into the ministry that what you've given your life to, your mission.
All right, so I'll just rewind it a little bit.
Okay.
I came to Christ.
Yes.
When I was 5, I made a prayer for salvation in a musical, and it was very interesting. It was really good. Time went by. I even got baptized, but I started making wrong decisions and starting to kind of like deviate on my path with the Lord and taking bad decisions with bad friends. And I always say I don't blame my friends because I chose them. I knew what was I getting into. So, and when I started wanting to move, I went to Portugal for a mission trip for 5 weeks. And they asked me to translate from Portuguese to English a campfire meeting, which in campfires we talk the kids or the teens about dedicating your life to the Lord. God gave you everything, gave you breath, gave you salvation, gave you the world, and now it's your opportunity to give something back. Everything you have, everything you were, and everything you hope to be, just give it up to Him in whatever you do. And the message that was preached that night was with Ananias and Sapphira, and which was the same passage that my dad got called with. And I was translating this passage, so I was hearing it. It was kind of like a filter thing going, because I was hearing it. Then the Holy Spirit was punching me in the face with my heart,
Right.
And then I was actually saying it in English. So, yeah, that's how I called. Then started little by little. I wanted to become a doctor. I don't know if I should go that far, but I wanted to become a doctor.
Yeah, okay.
The first year Bible Institute, an orchestra came. I'm going to try to do the short story version of it. An orchestra came. I was like wowed by the clarinet. My parents are missionaries with music and teaching. And everybody was like, you should be a missionary with music like your dad. And I'm like, no, I want to be a doctor. I don't want to be a missionary. Then, so I studied in first year to do 1 year of biblical basis before I went to college. Then I decided if I go to college, I'm not going to go back to the faith. So I'm going to do 3 years of Bible Institute before I go to college. And by my third year, I had forgotten about this clarinet thing because I made a prayer and said, God, if you want me to be a music missionary, just give me a clarinet and I'll do it. Weird prayer. I don't advise anybody to do it. I've never done that before. I've never done that afterwards. But at that moment, I was like testing God kind of thing. And, well, 2 years went by, no clarinet, nothing special going on. I didn't tell anybody about this prayer. So I was like, okay, see, that's it. It's life. So when I went to my third year in the Bible Institute, I had already everything lined up. I was starting my pre-med courses.
Yep.
Everything was going right. I had a place to live. I had somebody to study with. I was awesome. And then this orchestra came back. And an elderly man, he was around 70 years old, retired from the Army orchestra or band. He comes up with a box and says, "Are you Pali?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this is for you." And I opened it up, and it was a buffet, for those who know about music, a buffet wooden clarinet, which is a very special, kind of expensive, good instrument in clarinet world. And I looked at it, and I was a little surprised, okay, as you could imagine. And I asked him, so why are you giving this to me? He's like, I don't know, I just felt the Lord leading me to give you this. So you go study this instrument and serve the Lord. So I was like,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've never heard this one before
Yeah.
from Pali. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Good. Nice. Yeah, so
Wow.
that's how I was called to
That is a
missions.
clear calling.
Yeah. And again, those divine appointments or butterfly effects.
Right.
After that, I started learning the instruments. And a month-ish after I got the clarinet, I started playing in the orchestra because we have a good orchestra director who gave you easy music. And my wife came, my wife came to the BI in Argentina, and she is amazing in the violin. She studied 8 years in the conservatory. So she joined our orchestra.
She should have came over with you for Jaden's wedding and played the violin.
Yes.
Okay.
Next time.
Next time. Well, hopefully there's not a next time for the
She
wedding.
could
Next
But-
wedding, though.
but yeah.
You
She
have,
could play in
another
hopes.
daughter.
Yeah, in Portugal.
In Portugal, maybe.
Yes.
So amazing violin player. So and we started doing ministry together, being in the same group of friends, and that's how I got to actually know who now is my girlfriend or my wife. My ex-girlfriend. I said.
She's your ex-girlfriend.
She's my ex-girlfriend. She's my wife.
Yes.
Yeah. So
All right.
yeah, and then we met in the BI. We both came from weird relationships and passing on limits with
And
our
she's
relationships.
French?
She's French.
It's
yes.
it's an important
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
thing.
Cool.
I mean,
It's a cool thing.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. So she's French and about my same age. And we started a good, really, really good and healthy friendship that I never had with a girl, that deep, like spiritual friendship. I had deep friendships, but not like deep and spiritual at the same time. And we were in a group of friends, and we had a conversation for about an hour in one of the trips. Coming back, everybody fell asleep, and we started talking for about an hour. And I remember going back home. It was August 10th. I still remember. I kept that date because I wanted to keep that date. August 10th, 2005. And I was like, wow, maybe she could be the woman I marry. It's the first time I actually felt that, yeah, that could be the one. So we were in same group of friends, and then we had to wait. I had to wait for a year because they don't allow first-year Bible Institute students to start relationships over there, which it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's good so you can focus on what's important. And yeah, so basically I got to know her, and we were friends. And to make the long story short, basically a year after that prayer I made, or that weird like, wow, she could be my wife, I talked to her, and she finished her first year, and I said, hey, you know what? Since I was born, my parents have been praying for the person who I would marry, and several months ago has a clear last name and first name, which is you. So, and I would love to start a serious relationship with you that would lead to our marriage one day. And yeah, she was like very cold. So she was very nervous. She told me this later, that she was nervous and she didn't know how to respond. But she looked at me and said, okay, I'll talk to my parents, I'll talk to my counselor, and then I'll get back to you. And he turned around and left. And I was like, oh no.
That probably wasn't how you pictured that going down.
No, I was hoping at least a little hug, something, you know. But no, and she left running. And it took 10 days to communicate with her parents and counselors and everybody. So after 10 days, she came back and actually told me that 6 months ago, she started having feelings for me, and that she was praying that God would lead us into a relationship. So it all worked out.
It all worked out.
Nice. 3
children.
We have 3. We got married in 2008 in France, and we have 3 children. Killian, he's turning 14, and Enzo and Olivia are 10.
Twins.
Yes, twins.
Beautiful kids.
Yes,
Beautiful family.
yes.
Bridget and I have had I've had the privilege of going to Portugal twice and spending time with them, and Nil, Pauli's wife, she's awesome.
Yes,
Kids
she
are
is.
awesome. I love watching them interact as a family. It's just it's just like, that's a family that you want to like ascribe to be like, and
Right.
just
Thank you.
and model after. And
We're
we
not
had-
perfect, okay?
No,
We're
you're-
not
no.
We know
perfect
that.
at all.
We know that. None of us
but
are. None of us are.
you're well on your way to
Thank you.
what I think all of us as dads and that we're looking to be like as well. And so we had the chance to go to France with them and do dad camp
Yeah,
as well. And
that's awesome.
I still got this memory in my head of this picture I snapped of Bridget and Nil just
yeah.
kind of grabbing. I think Nil just kind of grabbed Bridget's hand, and they were just the friendship that was starting, and the love that was like already there, and just the friendship. So awesome family, and
Thank you.
we love the fact that you're doing ministry with us and with Dad Camp, and so I think it'd be great, just tell us a little bit about like some of the differences you see in the culture, the spiritual temperature, the family temperature in Portugal versus what you experience in the United States.
Yeah.
And I know you work with Americans quite a few. You work with people from all over the world, really. But yeah, just tell us a little bit about what's different in Portugal. What are some of the challenges you face in trying to reach kids, reach families there?
Yeah, well, just I have a lot of cultures in my under my belt, to say, because I'm from Argentina originally. I don't remember if I said that, but I'm from Argentina. Grew up in an Argentine home. My wife is French, so I get to see a French family in the works. I came to the U.S. many times and grew up with American families going to missions in Argentina. And now we've been living in Portugal since the year 2011. So we get a lot of different cultures, and I get mixed up sometimes in which ones are which. But what I remember about Portugal, first of all, there's a huge divorce rate in Portugal. So you see a lot of divorced families, and that's extremely sad to see because the kids suffer a lot through that. Also, something that I see is that dads are not necessarily disengaged, but they focus too much on relationship, but they don't focus on the firmness side of things. So sometimes there's a lot more moms being the bad guys at the house while dads are the cool guys. And this creates some conflict in the houses. Of course, you have amazing examples of that. That's that you see they're doing everything the way God would like it. And there's a lot of disengaged or present dads, but not fulfilling the goal that God has for dads, which is leading the home as a spiritual father.
I was just going to come out of my mouth. Like, we talk a lot about the spiritual father factor at dad camp, and just the lack of, as a whole, and we can speak in terms of North America now, but even as we've gone around the world, different places, the lack, the general lack of fathers being the spiritual leaders of their home and putting that pressure or putting that onus or responsibility into the mom's world, and she's doing everything she can just to be the best mom she can. And but is that a reality in Portugal as well? That
another
spiritual
reality,
father factor.
Yes. But the other reality also is that a lot of the cost of living in Portugal, it's not that expensive, but the minimum wage is very, very, very low. So you see most of the families, both parents work a regular job. So you see a lot of kids kind of growing up on electronics and on social medias and not having, or some younger kids actually grow up in school because they go at school at 8, which is when it opens, and they go extra hours and they stay until 6 when it closes because both parents work. And I would say that's kind of like a thing where you see kids in that crisis where they don't have a lot of parents guiding them in their day-to-day life. And their parents just get there, cook dinner, how was your day, help you with homework, go to bed. So, and they do things on weekends usually. But
one thing I observed in Portugal, like, the churches are smaller than probably here in the U.S. in terms of the numbers of attendees. Question though about that: is church attendance primarily women and children in Portugal in terms of percentage wise, or is there? I would say here my observation would be 60 to 70% of those attending are women and kids, and 20 to 30% are dads. Is that similar? Or less, more?
The church we go to, families are pretty healthy. I'm thankful that we go to a very healthy church, and they invest in families. For the most part, when a family goes, everybody goes.
Everybody goes.
Unless it's a single mom.
Yep.
But yeah.
What's the prevailing or predominant faith identity in Portugal?
Catholic for sure.
Catholic?
I think it's 70% Catholic.
70%, okay.
Not all of them are actually practicants of the Catholic faith, but it's very innate in the culture. Like even spring break for you guys in Portugal is actually Easter break.
Okay.
And we do the spring break. It's not around spring. It's around when Easter is, because Easter changes. And so we take usually a week before Easter and a week after Easter. And that's our Easter holidays. So
Okay.
It's very Catholic.
Yeah, very Catholic. So I wanted to, ask you one more thing in the world of fatherhood and parenting. You and your wife are parenting coaches, which is really cool. you are living in the blessing of a legacy of a family that is, been spiritually pretty strong, family's pretty close. You had a good, strong father growing up that has influenced, I'm sure, how you parent your kids today, how you father your kids today. So as a parenting coach, as a part of Dad Camp, being focused on trying to equip dads to be the best dads they can be, I know there's a lot of things you could say, but with an audience of dads listening and our goal to encourage them in their fatherhood journey, what's like one piece of coaching you might you might say today, like, you know what, if I could offer one piece of coaching that that I've seen, that I've learned, that I've been implementing in my own family, that's been so effective, something I'd love for everybody to know, every dad to know.
Yeah. So first of all, the coaching that we did it for ourselves, for me and my wife.
Right.
We were struggling with one of our kids, and my wife sharing with one of her friends about her struggles is like, hey, you know what? I'm doing a biblical coaching for parents. Would you like me to coach you? And that's how it started, actually, as us wanting to learn more. And it's a heart-based biblical counseling approach to parenting. Dr. Scott Turansky, you can look up his books. He's got amazing material, and he's the one who created Biblical Parenting University. He does coaching for that too, and he has a bunch of coaches around the world that are a blessing. So we did it for us. So maybe the first thing that I would say, like an advice, or just look for help. Sometimes we as parents think we know everything, and as parents we think we have all the answers and we know what to do, and we know our kids. You don't know our kids. We know our kids. But this is not a copy-paste kind of coaching. It's focused on whatever kid you have and its needs. But I think the biggest thing, because it's very broad, it's like an 8-week course where you have about 45 minutes to an hour worth of videos to watch in the week. Then you have homework, and then we do 1 hour counseling every week for 8 weeks. So it's a lot of material that we go through, and it's based on basically 7 tools, which is relationship, building a relationship with your kid that he feels like you care about him. So do things that they care, not just the things that you care about. Right. So if my kid likes to build Legos, but I'm bored and I don't like building Legos, just go ahead and build Legos with him. Yeah. That will build his relationship, because he'll feel like, oh, he cares about the things I care. Then visioning, this to me was crazy. That's another tool. So relationship visioning. Sometimes we forget, and Dad Camp is really good in creating visions for dads, and especially in the Year 1 International, that's what we focus on vision. Yeah. But sometimes we don't share that vision with our kids. Hey, this is where we're going. Like this family, this is what we're going to do as a family. Right. Getting people together. Then firmness, not harshness. Firmness. This was key for us. Because sometimes parents go to one spectrum, like they have relationship, but then their kids walk all over them. And some other ones are so firm that they end up being harsh and create no relationship. So with the relationship, you have to have firmness, which is not the same as harshness, but like the kids understand that this is the limit and that's as far as we will go.
Discipline.
Yes. Then prayer, a tool that sometimes is not so talking about with parenting is prayer. We need to keep prayer as a priority in our lives. Pray for our kids, pray with our kids, share praise requests with our kids, sharing, hey, let's pray for this need with that friend. Okay, now we're going to be a part of giving that, so you're a part of the answer to that prayer. Then let's praise, because God. So building a life of prayer. Then teaching. I mean, it's very important that we teach as parents. The Bible talks a lot about the importance of dads teaching. Then coaching, that's the other tool, where you're actually, the idea as parenting coaches is that we help you coach your kids. So getting alongside, explaining, helping him practice. Sometimes, hey, kid, come here. And they're like, no, I don't want to. Okay, that wasn't the right answer. Let's practice again. What would you say if you had, so practice with them. And then the last tool that we use is transferring responsibility. So sometimes even when we give instructions to our kids, we say, "Hey, go clean your room." Well, you need to clean, and you'll say, "Hey, I need you to clean the room." So, and we're just giving instructions and orders where we should be like, "Hey, you need to clean your room. That's your responsibility." And then it's got a lot more, but I would say like I wanted to just give it an overview.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some nuggets that parents can take from there.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would say, not necessarily this type of coaching, but I would say like read books about parenting. Go get help with a coach or a counselor, especially if you have a big issue, or especially if your kids are young, or if everything is okay. There's always room to grow. And we don't have all the answers. There's no shame in asking for help.
Right.
If we ask for help, the only thing we're showing is that we want to improve and we want to be the best parents that we can have for our kids. And I think that's a fair request.
Awesome. Yeah, that was 7 pieces of coaching there, or 7
I love it.
Good stuff.
Well, it's the 7 tools.
The 7 tools.
Yes.
And each week we focus on one. So
Okay.
Yeah, good stuff. Last question for you,
Yes.
Pali. You've given a part of your mission and life and time and energy to this ministry called Dad Camp.
yes.
Why?
Well, good question. I would say the first time we did Dad Camp, I did it it was a 4-hour event in Lisbon. And I did it with my almost pre-teenage
Yep.
boy at the time. He was 11 or 12. 11. And we did Dad Camp for 4 hours. I was very pleased with the material that we got as parents. And it was really good for me. And then I did not know anything about it. So it was my first... I had no clue what Dad Camp was when we did the first one. And when we did the blessing element, so for those who hear this podcast and don't know, at the end of every event, the parents give a blessing to their kids, and they give you a picture frame with all these drawings and all that. That's very pretty. So it's kind of like an exchange of goods. When you do a 1-hour event, we do it that way.
Yeah.
A 4-hour event. So I start talking about my kids, and there's this triangle that was the blessing with 3 words that mostly explain or inspires yourself as your relation with your kid or whatever. Not bad or not disorganized. That's not the idea. There's things that positive,
words.
that encouraging words for him. And I don't remember exactly the words I told him, but I remember that when I started with the first word, my son started getting his eyes watery. And of course, I started getting my eyes watery. When I finished with all 3 words and explaining why I chose those 3 words, just a little parenthesis. I take my kids skateboarding, surfing. Being a missionary, because we live close to the ocean in Portugal, we try to do a lot of special things. We go see our family in Argentina. We see our family in France. We're not luxurious. We don't have a lot of money, but we get to do a lot of things that some people say only millionaires or missionaries get to do, And he comes up at the end when I give him those 3 words and says, "Dad, I think this is the best day of my life."
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, a 4-hour event in a venue that's not that cool. We didn't do much. And because I understand that for him, I was never that intentional with him in encouraging him with my words. I always told him I was proud. I was happy for him. I'm a pretty encouraging dad, I think. I thought so. And that made me say, okay, there's something special about this. There's something different about this that we need to get this going and get this a little more into Portuguese culture. Yeah. So that was the first thing. And then the more we do it, and then at the end we have dads sharing. There was this guy, very rich. I think he was from Angola, a very rich man with a suit. Who goes with a suit to Dad Camp, right?
Yeah.
So he came with a suit, you saw that's probably a very expensive suit, And we did a day Dad Camp in a church in Lisbon, and he said, at the end, he said, every day I do one-on-one time with my clients and my employees. I had never done it with my girls. You're like, I started
Yes.
watering my eyes.
Yeah,
as
the
well.
watering the eyes is happening here.
Yes.
And so I truly believe because of the results I've seen, and it's not because of dad camp. It's just dad camp creates this opportunity for dads to, for once, if they haven't done it before, be intentional with their kids and being able to move forward and be stronger dads.
And then we
That's
see
great.
God just work in that intentionality through the Father, in his life, through his life. Awesome. Well, we are super thankful, Pali, for being a part of the team and following God's lead in that. And we're excited for what's next in terms of Dad Camp Portugal, in terms of Dad Camp Europe, in terms of Dad Camp World, because, Pauli's got a lot of great relationships and connections through the ministry of Word of Life that as he talks to them, they're like, hey, well, let's try Dad Camp here. Like, hey, let's try Dad Camp there. And so we're just
for the people to know and pray. I mean, there's we've done it in Germany.
Yep.
Lord willing, we might do it this year in Hungary through Word of Life. There's a possibility of going to Brazil, and then there's other places. Spain. There's a guy that I went to. It's a missionary that was from Portugal. Went to Spain and says, Pali, I want you to know I'm going to push to do Dad Camp in Spain.
There you go.
So, and then there's Paraguay, Argentina, countries those countries are the ones
you mentioned
that have
Scotland,
Lithuania.
So it's
So there's in those countries that I'm mentioning is because there has been a conversation is that eventually Dad Camp needs to come here. So
if you're listening and you're a part of this ministry, be praying for that, so that we would have wisdom to take the right steps, that God would open the doors, that we would be obedient to those things. So, Matt, as we wrap up, we always say, you got any final 10%?
Final 10%. Just it comes off this conversation that I want to remind our listeners, like our excitement about those doors opening are not from like a number standpoint or how much influence Dad Camp has or anything about us. It's about what Pali said about what he sees the impact of us creating these spaces and these environments for God to work.
Yep.
And also, we said what differences are in Portugal. Well, really, you said the same things that we see here, that we see in Serbia, that we see in Democratic Republic of Congo, in Kenya, in Guatemala, in Honduras. And so that's why God's message to dads' hearts translates all over the world. We see the same attacks on fathers all over the world. We know that the enemy doesn't want us to succeed. If we fail, our wives fail. If we fall, our wives fall, our kids fall, right? And so I just want to remind guys that when you're praying about that, we see the impact that our Heavenly Father has on men's hearts all over the world. And we say at Dad Camp, we want to see a world where every family has a faith-filled father leading. And this is how we're going to see it happen. And then you and I got to spend a lot of time together in leading Dad Camp over this past weekend. I just want to encourage you. You're a real one.
Thanks.
So that's a word that I use for the guys that I have in my life, that I'm close enough to them to see that they're true disciples of Christ. And I praise God that he connected us and that even just in a short 2 or 3 days or a week that I can see like you're a true disciple of Christ. And I appreciate you as being my brother in Christ for sure.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
That's awesome. And Lord willing, Portugal soon.
Portugal. I've already told my wife, and Kylan's going to hold me to this, my youngest. He already says, well, Mom, we're going to Portugal October of 2025. Like, it's done. In Kylan's mind, it's already done. So I said, well, son, we say, Lord willing.
Lord willing.
Lord willing. That's the plan.
Oh, what you said, Matt, towards Pali and what you've seen in him and his character, that in my opinion, that's for me, like, I couldn't say it any differently or better. Like, that's why he's here in this room. That's why I said we want to invest into creating the space for him to be here with us.
Yes.
Because I see that in him. I see his heart. I see his integrity that he's got from his father, and he's living it out. I see his family.
Yep.
I see his passion for reaching fathers and families. And honestly, I just want to be around him more and more, because that's the kind of guy that he is. So,
Amen.
Amen to that. Guys, just thanks for listening again this month. Just quick on the Dad Camp announcement world. In about a month from now, the 2025 calendar for the season of Dad Camp in the U.S. will be coming out. So be on the lookout for that, whether that we'll be announcing that through social media, email, that kind of thing. But sometime in January, the calendar comes out. We usually have registration in March. So you got a couple months to prepare yourself for the big registration day, which really has become that.
Yes.
Like, don't not be ready on registration day. But also at the end of January, so about a month from now, we are having our first kind of ever winter Dad Camp in the States in Montana.
Yes.
And so, we're recording this a little bit before this release, but if there's still room, go check out. Like, if you can come out, it's going to be awesome. The end of January in Bozeman, Montana, a winter event. So if there's still space, we want to fill that up. So be on the lookout for that. If you're interested ever in international trips, as far as going and being a part of a team that's taking Dad Camp globally, going to Portugal, going to some of these countries that we've mentioned today, please reach out to us, because we'll be starting to build those teams for 2025, 2026 here real soon. If we may already have been, that process has probably started. So lots there. Check more out, dadcamp.org. And we're just thankful for you guys listening month in and month out. And as we always say, you have what it takes.
Yep.
So go do whatever it takes to be the strongest father you can be. God bless you. And Merry Christmas.
Yes.
And Happy New Year.
Yes.
To you all. Love you guys. Take care.